Hey, what's up, guys? Today I'm going to be replacing a camshaft in a Briggs Stratton V-twin engine. The first thing we're going to do is get the oil drained, obviously, because we are going to be turning this motor upside down and pulling the lower cover off. Now, I have had this engine out for a few weeks, just waiting on parts and trying to find time to work on it. So now that I finally have a free day on the weekend, we're going to get it tore down. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the valve covers off and get the push rods out. Now, these valve covers are glued on with silicone, which I don't think is the way they would have come from the factory. So I believe these valve covers have been off. When I ordered the cam from Briggs Stratton, I did get a set of paper gaskets with it. So I think this should have had paper gaskets, and whoever was in here last, probably adjusting the valves, did not have replacement gaskets. These valve springs are soft enough on these little lawn equipment engines that you can just use your thumb to open the valve and move the push rod out of the way. And we do have one steel and one aluminum push rod. The aluminum is for the intake and the steel is for the exhaust. I want to make sure that those do go back where they came from. All right, we got the oil drained, valve covers off, push rods out. We're going to go ahead and flip this motor upside down. These engines aren't terribly heavy. Personally, I'm terrible at guesstimating weight, but I would say this engine is probably around 70 pounds all told. There's really not much to it. So it's pretty easy to manhandle around on my table here. Now, it's okay to set the engine upside down on the blower. You just want to be careful not to allow the full weight of the engine to rest on the edge of the blower, because it is plastic and it will break. Now that we've got the engine upside down, I'm going to go ahead and remove the governor linkage. This is just a 10 millimeter nut on a carriage bolt that I just dropped. So that's great. Gonna get my little grabber tool and reach down in there, grab that out before I forget it. Now take a straight slot screwdriver, try to spread this a little bit, and then just pry it right off the governor arm. You do want to be a little bit gentle so you don't bend the governor arm or damage the seal inside there, because that is completely submersed in oil at all times. So that would be a massive leak if the seal were to be damaged. Going to go ahead and blow these lower crankcase bolts off once I get the right socket. They are not 14 millimeter, they are 13 millimeter. And then I am going to grab the wrong tool. There we go. There it is. All right. Cast aluminum is brittle. But in the absence of a good pry point on this, I am going to go ahead and give it a few whacks to break the cover loose, and then just get a little straight slot screwdriver and pry it up, get it off of the alignment pins, and it's free. And there goes the oil pump drive shaft that I didn't see, so I'm just going to get my little grabber, pull it out of there, and mark the cam so that I know that it goes exactly right back where it was.
What?
The compression release is missing off of the camshaft, and
Where's the compression release?
it doesn't appear to be in the crankcase anywhere. So this is very confusing for me. I'll open up the new cam to compare. It did come with 4 new tappets. And the camshaft looks correct. Don't need that anymore. Now here's a side-by-side comparison. On the new cam, you can see that the weight for the compression release is there, and on the old camshaft, well, it is not there. Gonna go ahead and get the old tappets pulled out of here. Could probably reuse them on the new cam, but we got new ones, so may as well. I did do a visual inspection on the cam versus the old one. The lobes are correct. They are in the correct spot. So we're going to go ahead and drop that in. I did mark it off camera, and I did turn the motor over to top dead center. Next step is going to be cleaning up our sealing surfaces. At work, I have a few different tools. I have scrapers similar to this one. I have carbide tip scrapers for doing block surfaces for head gaskets on steel blocks. This is just a putty knife with a sharp edge put on it, and it works pretty good for what it is to get this paper gasket off. And once I've got the bulk of the paper gasket off and the large pieces pulled out of the crankcase, I'm just going to go over it with a mild or medium abrasive disc. People have opinions about these. I've been using these on various surfaces for almost 20 years professionally in various shops, and I've never once had an issue with it. So we're just going to get this cleaned up, get that surface nice and shiny, and move on to cleaning the lower part of the crankcase. Now I'm going to pop the crankshaft seal out so that I can attempt to replace that. And long story short with this, that did not go the way I had hoped it would. The sealing lip is facing, it's not the wrong direction, but it does not slide over the crankshaft very well. And you'll see here in a few minutes what ends up happening is as I'm trying to roll this new seal lip over the end of the crankshaft, the spring comes out, and I spent entirely too much time trying to get the spring reinstalled around the lip of the seal with it still in the lower portion of the crankcase. Was unable to do that. Tried to pop the new seal out with a screwdriver and a hammer, and ended up just going right through the rubber, ruined the seal. So once I get this cover on, I'm going to actually reinstall the original seal. And there goes the oil pump drive shaft again. This would have been a lot easier if I had removed the oil pump from the lower part of the crankcase. I did not. I didn't have the O-ring or gasket or whatever is under there. You can see the oil pump cover there by my left thumb. It's literally just 3 screws and it pops right out. But I didn't have the seals for it. I didn't want to mess around trying to find them locally. So I did not do that. Now, if you've ever installed a distributor in a car or truck, you know that the distributor drive has to be lined up just about perfectly or the distributor won't drop in. And this is essentially the exact same thing. And right here, I've just noticed that I have lost the spring out of the seal, so I'm going to spend a few minutes dealing with that. I've popped the seal out off camera, so I'm going to go ahead and try to get this lower crankcase reinstalled again. And believe it or not, that's all it took, was putting the oil pump drive shaft on the camshaft and then rotating the engine with the blower. The next step in reassembly, obviously, is to get the bolts reinstalled in the lower crankcase and get those torqued down. They are 8mm by 150, I believe, and 18 foot-pounds is a good round number to go on that. I could have probably found the actual torque spec, but that would have taken probably quite a bit of searching because I don't have those resources readily available. So you can just go by what you can find on a torque chart as far as bolt size. This is the original seal going back in. And I'm just going to use a little pocket screwdriver to maneuver the lip of the seal over the end of the crankshaft here. There's not a chamfer on the end of the crankshaft like there should be, in my opinion. But at this point, that's neither here nor there. It's got to go back on one way or another. Just going to gently tap it in with a hammer and then use a punch to go around and gently work it all the way in until it stops. Now I'm going to go ahead and get the governor linkage reinstalled. I'm just going to line it up with the wear mark on the governor shaft because for some reason it's not keyed. Cleaning the sealing surface on the cylinder heads and the valve covers is the exact same process as cleaning the crankcase. Scrape the bulk of the silicone off with the scraper and then go back over it with an abrasive disc. I did actually have to go back and look at my footage to see which push rod came out of which hole here. And again, the aluminum one is for the intake. The intake is on the top side. And the steel push rod is for the exhaust. And then once you get the push rods in, grab a light, make sure that they are properly seated into the end of the tappet, just to avoid any issues with valve opening. These are M6 by 1.0 bolts. So again, I'm going to refer back to the torque chart and my experience at my shop and set these at 89 inch-pounds of torque. Coming down to the last few bits here before we get ready to reinstall the engine. So this is just the blower cover, reinstalling that, reinstalling the air filter cover, and resecuring the fuel pump to the blower cover. And yes, I know there are only 3 bolts going into the fan cover, but one of them is broken off in the fan. I am unable to extract it, and I don't really want to purchase a new fan for this, so 3 bolts is fine. Alright, I'm going to get the mower pushed into the garage here, get the hood off of it, and get it ready to set the motor back in.
All right, boys, now watch how this is done. The key is to put it all in your groin and your back. Take your legs totally out of the equation. Lift with your lower back in a jerking, twisting motion. Ah!
And now, in a jerking, twisting motion, I'm going to lift the mower up and set the frame on jack stands so that I can get underneath it, get the motor bolted back down to the frame, and the pulley and drive belts reinstalled. Now, I'm not going to bother looking up the torque spec on these. They are big bolts, and tight is tight. Same thing with the crank pulley bolt. Run it in, give it a few ugga-duggas, call it good. Wiring's next. Super simple. There's one plug for the engine harness, the hot lead to the starter, and the wiring for the headlights, which will just be set aside for now until I get the hood back on. Next step is installing the throttle cable, and I did not do this correctly, and you will see why or how I screwed this up when I start the mower. This can be a little bit fiddly even when you get it hooked up properly the first time. Getting the sheath secured in the correct spot to get the proper amount of throw on the throttle plate, and also the choke, because on this mower the choke is all the way up past full throttle is where it actuates. So gotta kind of get it all lined up right, work the throttle back and forth, and just get it settled in kind of a happy spot. Get the muffler and heat shield bolted back up, and after that the hinge bracket for the hood, which is just this bar here. And I'm just gonna zip all these fasteners down with my impact gun. The specific torque is not that crucial. Same with the bolts for the little skid plate piece here. And get these jack stands out of the way, get it set down on the ground. The last thing left, I think, is to install the fuel line and roll it outside and see if I screwed anything up or if it's going to start and run. Though we already know that I screwed up the throttle cable. Almost forgot I have to hook the battery back up. Alright, got it rolled out into the driveway because I know it's going to smoke like crazy. These engines with the fuel pumps on them, they do take a fair little bit of cranking to get the fuel system primed, especially if the carburetor's been emptied. And the carburetor was upside down, and I know for a fact that it drained all of the fuel out of it. So I'm going to crank it, and I'm going to end up giving it just a little shot of ether. Now, this might have started if I didn't have the throttle cable hooked up incorrectly. I was going to say backwards, but it's not backwards. I just had the cable in the wrong hole on the throttle linkage. And you see there, it fires right up with a little bit of starting fluid. And it runs good, it sounds good. Quick look for leaks. And here I am realizing that where I have the throttle cable hooked up, it's working the throttle linkage backwards. So when I throttle up, it throttles the engine down, and when I throttle the engine all the way down, it throttles the engine up, and if I go further than that, it turns the choke on. Easy fix, really not a big deal. Just shut it off, get the throttle cable disconnected. Right here you can see there is wear in the hole that it's actually supposed to go into, and I should have seen that, but it's pretty mild wear, and I just, just missed it. So no big deal. Get the throttle reinstalled, linkage readjusted, make sure that the choke is working properly, and you can see the choke working over on the left side of the engine is that vertical rod. And got that all set. So move the camera back and make sure that it starts and runs and throttles up and down correctly, and that the choke comes on when I tell it to come on. Choke, throttle down, throttle up, there's choke. Yeah, it's working good. A little bit of fine tuning to do on the throttle cable adjustment. I think it wasn't kicking the choke on at the right time. This was, it's been about a week since I finished this repair, and I don't recall exactly, but I got that all straightened out. I'm also looking and listening for any sign of leaks or abnormal noises while I'm doing this, and I'm not seeing or hearing anything. So get this adjusted again and tighten down the clamp on the cable sheath, and then I can roll it back in, get the hood and deck reinstalled, and this one's going to be ready to go. Now, I've done this before on this channel, so I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail putting the deck back on. Just going to get the PTO cable hooked back up, get all the linkages and the clips and all that nonsense hooked up. Get the belt on. This one does not have the bar tensioner like that 54-inch deck that I did recently. So, gonna move the tensioner by hand, make sure up and down works. Get the hood popped on, get the little side covers on, plug in the headlights, and fire it up one more time, just to make sure everything is still good. This has been a decent little 10 or 15 minute hot soak, so if there was going to be an issue with something, it would show up. Get the knuckles and the front bearings greased. I did grease the spindles. The spindles are also brand new on this one.